Okay, so let's talk about something more useful now. GPS, Global Positioning System. It's pretty much what every airplane uses to navigate these days. So let's discuss that. A GPS system works off triangulation from satellites, uses very precise atomic clocks that calculate the time and the distance from each satellite. So if you think about you're at a certain place on Earth, and it's going to figure out how far am I from each satellite. So it makes essentially a sphere around each satellite, and it's somewhere in the sphere, and then, or somewhere on the perimeter, on the outside of that sphere, and then where those spheres cross, that is your position. There's a rapid position update every second or so, and allows the GPS then to calculate the speed, track, and time. So all GPSs kind of work differently. There are a lot of similarities between the different units, but you should really consult your owner's manual and be really familiar with the GPS if you have one on board. They're super useful instruments and navigation aids, but I can't discuss how every single GPS works, how it operates. You're going to have to look at that. So every GPS, though, has a direct to function. So basically you hit the direct to, it's usually a D with a line through the middle, an arrow through the middle, and then you just select the identifier, and then it will tell you what track to fly to get there. And then there's a course deviation indicator, the same as a VR would have, and you want to keep that in the middle. Here are just some different units. The first one, this Magellan unit, like early 90s maybe. And then they had these North Star units on the top left, these GPS 80s, I believe they were called. It's just one single line of display and a bunch of knobs. Then came the KLN 90B. This was the first approach certified GPS, the one with the green text there. They were quite good units. You could fly approaches with them. They didn't have a moving map, but you could do a lot with them. You could flight plan, do calculations with them, and you fly to VORs, do all sorts of things, have flight plans. Then below is the Garmin 430, which was a super popular. It's still popular. It's about 22 years old, but you still find them in a lot of aircraft. On the left side, it does comm and nav. You see on the left, you can select, works as a VOR as well, and then you have a nice color moving map, and has just a lot of functions, flight planning functions, approaches, all sorts of things. And it's very easy to use as well. And then kind of the latest is your tablet based GPSs that are either on a tablet or they're built in an EFIS display. And it's amazing the technology that's involved with these, but it's actually very interesting because for those units, you really just need a GPS sensor and then a tablet, so it's easy enough to get, and then it's just a bunch of software coding. And so you have these three-dimensional highway in the sky type things, whatever the software engineers wanted to do with fancy colors. And if you're too low, then it'll show a red mountain in the way. Really, really amazing what they can do now with all this software. There's really one big limitation to GPS, as great as it is. The US military controls the GPS, and if they wanted to, they could just suddenly shut it off in the time of war. They could just go and hit a switch and shut the whole thing down so nobody can use their fancy system to guide their airplanes to go bomb their airfields. GPS uses triangulation from satellites. Typically, the function that's common to all GPSs, they have a direct to function. You hit the D with the arrow through it, and then select the airport that you want to go to, hit enter, and it will tell you what course to fly to that airport. What is the major disadvantage of GPS? A, it is not as accurate as ground-based aids. No, that's not correct. It's much more accurate. B, it could be shut down in times of war. So that's the correct answer. C, it's expensive. No, it's quite cheap. And the equipment's heavy. Nope, it's quite light. So B is the correct answer. That concludes this lesson on GPS. We'll see you on our next lesson.